After I finished rebuilding the carburetors, what I found was that I had an idling problem. That outboard would idle sporadically, if at all. So I went ahead and took them back off. And the idea is to clean the passages for the idle jet. This is a fixed idle jet, so there is no adjustment for it. Basically, rather than controlling the fuel flow, it controls the airflow into the fuel. I hesitated when I first rebuilt these carbs because, quite frankly, I had no idea where to get the lead plug. And when I found out that replacements were $8, I really thought I could get away without it. I went ahead and did this. First, I removed the little disc plug with a punch. Getting that off is not quite that difficult. It is hard, considering this carb's 30 years old. I can say that they made things a lot stronger than they do now. The discs that came with the carburetor rebuild kit are quite a bit thinner than this one that you can see me prying off. Now that the cap is off, we can see inside this. There's a little hole there, and that is actually a small jet, if you will, that goes directly into the throat of the carburetor. And it's designed to feed a controlled mix of gas and air into the carburetor throat while the engine is idling. Here's a close-up view of the well with that little jet on the right-hand side of the carb. And here's also a quick view of the cap that was covering that well. Next, I'll be removing the lead shot that covers the pickup emulsion tube. The pickup emulsion tube introduces fuel from the float bowl into this idle circuit where air is mixed in with the fuel. The air is metered by the jet that I removed earlier in this video. While removing the lead shot, I ended up pushing a little bit of that lead shot into the carburetor itself. So going in through the hole where the jet is, I was able to push it out. And as you can see, I'll be able to just punch it out. And there it is. I'm going to take this screwdriver that's now a pick and just clean out the edges. Make sure there's no lead left in there that may have stuck to the hole for the lead shot. Although it's a bit hard to see, the very tip of the emulsion pickup tube is in the bottom of that smaller hole. It is a little tough to see here. Wish I had got a better video, but that is where the gas is introduced into the idle circuit. Here's a shot of the emulsion tube itself. So there's a portion of it that sits in the float bowl, and the fat tube there feeds gas into the carburetor when you're accelerating. The skinnier portion feeds the idle circuit. Using canned carburetor cleaner, I'll be cleaning out the idle circuit. What you see me doing there is actually squirting some carb cleaner into the emulsion pickup tube. I'll be using a lot of the carb cleaner in this. I want to make sure all the passages are completely clean and that there's no residue or varnish built up in any of the idle circuit passages. Here I'm emptying the float bowl. Gas has sat in there for a while, so I want to make sure that there's no buildup in there as well. It also gives me the opportunity to give a squirt of cleaning fluid into the jet, the fast jet that's inside of the float bowl itself. Emptying the bowl, and there's not a lot coming out. That tells me that whatever was in there has probably evaporated out, and of course leaving some gum and varnish behind. So I'm going to go ahead and do my best to get some cleaner in there. The floats were adjusted, and I don't have any worries that they're out of adjustment. This is my second go around at these carburetors. So let's get these things cleaned out. And here I'm going extremely liberal with the carburetor cleaner. So one thing is interesting that you'll see here in a moment is the spray that comes out, or the mist that comes out when I spray it into the little jet, the orifice that goes into the throat. You can see the mist. So this is basically what's happening when you're idling the engine. You're getting a fine mist of gas on every pulse of the engine where there's an intake from the pistons, creating a vacuum. Cleaning the jet. Now, after thoroughly cleaning the idle jet passages, I'm going to seal this up. I've got the little cap in there, and I'm using a punch to flatten it out. And yes, I'm turning the punch upside down. I just want to get a broader flat surface on there. As far as the lead shot, I'm going to use these Gamo 17 caliber lead BBs. They're not quite as small, but they are a good fit, and they'll flatten out into the depression on top of the carburetor to seal that particular slot up. This tin of BBs cost about $6, and it's a good alternative because the actual replacement part for these carbs run from $8 to $12 per each lead BB. You can see here I'm flattening that BB out with a punch and getting a nice good seal on the top of the carburetor there. There are a few conflicting sealing methods. In theory, this should be enough. I've read that there are some people that use nail polish to do a final seal. I've elected to use Loctite Red. It is gas impervious and probably not necessary, but it won't hurt, and I will make sure that there's no air leaks in that idle circuitry, which would create too lean of a mixture when the engine is idling. I'll put some around the flattened lead BB as well. The red Loctite's not going to hurt, and it's going to prevent any air from causing too lean of a mixture. The one good thing to note about the red Loctite is that it is impervious to gas, so once you apply it here, it will stay on there. Now I'm going to assemble this back together, put the idle jet back in, and that should be it for this carburetor. Final touch will be to wipe off some of the excess red Loctite. Not necessary, but I think from an aesthetics perspective, it will make it look a little cleaner. And I hope you've enjoyed this video and that it's been helpful to you. If it has, give us a like and make sure to check out our other videos on Extreme DIY.